We're talking to Roye Okupe, the CEO of YouNeek Studios, about some of the great work he's been doing. The first thing that comes to mind, Roy, is of all the people I've seen who actually who do and create stuff like this, who work with a large team, you have one of the largest, widest ranging collaborations of anybody I've seen. Like, you have so many people you collaborate with. As a writer yourself, you collaborate with several artists. You collaborate with guys in different ways. And then as you're jumping into another format, the movie industry, it's been interesting to see that you're also working with a wide range of both actors, voice actors, and so on. So what keeps you focused, and how do you find consistency across all these media, across all these people you're working with, and keep it all in one, keep it all focused, keep it all similar, one single vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, vision. And that's one thing that I feel like sometimes a lot of people don't spend enough time crafting. Before I even put one thing out there, I had a vision of, okay, this is how I want to go. I want to release X amount of books. And then when I do that, I want to go into animation. And then when I do that, I want to see how I can transition that animation, into like, okay, selling my IP to, networks and streamers, and then I want to partner with, animation and video game companies in Africa. So all these things are, listed out like step by step by step. Now, it doesn't always, it doesn't. It always doesn't go according to plan, because that's just the nature of life, but it's a guideline. You have guiding principles. So when I say, this is a superhero universe that's inspired by, African history, culture, and mythology, that's a guiding principle. So if somebody, if I'm getting the itch to now do something that's, based in Asia or something, not that there's anything wrong with that, it doesn't guide the principle. Like that's something that is going off tangents of the original vision. Now, as such a time as we do change the vision, you can branch off into different things. But that has allowed me, like I sort of have like this map in my head, and I have most of it written down to be able to make decisions. So when somebody wants to partner with me and they don't align with the vision, I know I can't work with this person, not because they're bad or they are wrong in their views. It just doesn't align with what I'm doing. And you find out that helps. It just helps you a lot, because when you want to do, it helps you with everything, partnering, hiring people, deciding, who you want to work with, deciding who you don't want, like having that set of rules and standards in your vision, really helps you. Like, one of the things that I said I was going to do is that we're going to focus primarily on graphic novels, not floppy comics. And that has also guided me. So even in times where I was like, man, I don't have enough money, should I just let me just do smaller comics, instead? I'm like, no, that's not part of the vision. You have to continue doing graphic novels. So again, like, just having a set of guiding principles, and then having somebody in charge of that, which, in this case is me, also helps. I think this is one of the reasons why the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so excellent, and the word you use, consistent, because you have Kevin Feige, right? Like, he is the guy on the top. So whether you hire, Ryan Coogler or Taika Waititi to direct, there's somebody that's on top that is in charge of, okay, this is the vision for everything. And that's why you can watch all the Marvel movies right now, and you can see that there's a consistent vision. And that's sort of what I'm trying to emulate here, whether that's comics or, games or animation, whatever I'm doing, I have to keep that vision going. And one of the things that is primary to me is excellence in everything. Sometimes I fight my artists, because I tell them, look, we need to change this. And they're like, why are we changing this? Nobody's going to see it. Well, I'm like, I'm going to see it. You understand what I'm saying? So that's not an excuse to leave an error just because you think no one will see it. What you find out is that when you are meticulous about your craft, people may not even say, oh yeah, he there's no errors. Like this, there's a subtle thing that they catch onto your work, like what you said, like consistency and excellence. Like, those things come out by doing 100 small things, as opposed to trying to just do 50, 10 big things. It's the little things that counts.
Nice. We promised not to ask you exactly how much you're making, but we want to have like a picture, like a timeline of like, okay, like,
that's funny.
Obviously, there was a time when you started. There was a time when you started, and
and
there was just no way of knowing whether the thing will be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, you have faith in yourself and faith in your vision, but still, there was no way to say, okay, look, everybody is doing this and making so much money. I'm going to get in there. So there must have been a time when you started and there was doubt and there was a bit of fear. So basically, walk us through the timeline of, okay, even it can start as early as you like. Your dream. And then you go into it. You start talk about your financing, like how you got people to fund it, and then when you now finally got to a point where you're like, okay, now we're established, we can now move forward and focus on the vision rather than any fear of finances stopping the thing.
No, I'm so happy you asked that question, because this is something we don't talk about enough in the industry. And what I mean, and if you've seen me like at conventions, a lot of times people ask me questions. I'm very transparent. The first thing that I would say is that, so initially I quit my full-time job to do this in 2015. So I did that. I quit my job and I cashed out my 401k and I put everything into this business. You know, at the time it was a good decision. And I can't say that if I go back, I wouldn't do it. You know, but, you know, in retrospect, it wasn't the best decision. You know, I can't even go into personal finances now, because cashing out your 401k to put into a business, I personally, like, I don't, even though I did it, I don't think it's something I would advise somebody to do. Keep that money in there, let it grow, let it continue to compound, or whatever the case may be. But that's another discussion. I bring that up to say that I did that. So I worked on this full time for 4 years, but it was hard. After 4 years, I had to go back and get another job and do this at the same time. And at that point in time, I felt like a failure, because like, wow, I quit my job. That was like sort of my whole narrative. I was able to go into this. And I felt a lot of pressure initially to put out this perception of success and everything is working and everything is fine. That's foolish. That's foolishness in my own opinion. People don't learn as much from success as they do from failure. And for me, that's one thing that I feel like in this industry, we need to do more. We need to talk about, oh, this didn't work. You know, it's fun to say, you know, yeah, I posted this, I made this on Kickstarter. My stuff was funded in 1 day. I don't blame, I do that, like, and it's marketing, so don't get me wrong. But I think we need to be more open, which is why I'm having this conversation about the failure. So to me, like, what I felt like was a failure, it wasn't a failure, it was an adjustment, right? Okay, I'm not making enough money right now to sustain myself. You know, at that point in time, I even got married, like, I'm a family man now. I need to take care of my family. So I'm going to get a job. There's no shame in that. But I felt ashamed. You get what I'm saying? Which is a stupid thing. But I know some people also feel that in some instances where they started something, it didn't work out, and they were trying to do something. Like, so for me, that happened. But to me, that was one of the best decisions I made, because when I was able to get a job, this time it was like a remote job. So I was working from home. So I was able to do, you know, YouNeek Studios at the same time. And I wasn't under any pressure to make money. It was not, I now was able to take my time and say, okay, how do we do this the right way? So for 2 years, there was sort of like a restructure financially. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm not under pressure to make any money. And to find myself, like, even now, like just a couple of months ago, I've now quit my full-time job again. But this time is because I've put the company in a position where there's enough savings in there. There's enough money in there to last me a while. And that's something that I was building throughout those 2 years. So why am I saying all this? I say all this to say that, you know, this independent comic book thing, it's not a very lucrative deal. If you come into it for money, you're a joker. You understand what I'm saying? If you come into it solely for money, only for money, you're joking. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have the passion to do this, you're not really going to go anywhere. And it's taken me 5 years to really get my foot in. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't have success in year one. It just depends on what your definition of success is. For me, having 1 book out in year 1 was successful. Being able to do 2 books in year 2 was successful. Being able to have 5 books by year 3 was successful. You get what I'm saying? And now year 5, like, you know, Iyanu will be my 10th book that I've done. When I say book, this is graphic novels, not floppy comic book. But yeah, I say all that to say that, you know, one of the driving forces behind the financial part of the company was Kickstarter. That is the model that I've used but I've always been in this to be able to sell my IP for animation and live action. That's really where the money is. And I always try to tell people, get your product out there in comic book fashion. Even if you're not making a lot of money or whatever the case may be, your IP is out there. And then you have more flexibility, because when you start selling your shows to Netflix or whatever the case may be, that puts you in a better position to be a little bit more comfortable. And what I've done in the last, I would say even 10 years, because I've been doing this for 10 years, 5 years officially, it has not put me in a position where I'm having these discussions with producers now. Sorry, that was a very long answer. I'm so sorry.
That was a very perfect. That was a perfect answer, perfect in depth and length. But we still want to dig further into your, like you mentioned, quick Kickstarter. Kickstarter probably pays for a certain amount of what you have to do.
Yes.
But I guess okay. Do you talk to advertisers? How much what's the size of the role that advertisers play in your model? And then do you also do work for third parties, like people hire you to maybe craft stories or actually draw comics or design characters for them? And then also tell us, if you started talking to Netflix and how far that is going.
Those are all great questions. So in the first one, in terms of, Kickstarter initially funded all the operations, but I was going to say very lucky, but I wasn't. It's not that I was lucky. Initially, when I did my first 2 books, I would say I was lucky enough to get on CNN, BBC, The Washington Post, the New York Times. But there's a craft to that as well, right? It didn't just happen because I was sitting down. I was sending emails. I was crafting stories for these journalists in the way that they wanted to post what I was posting. Nice. So that initial flurry of press brought a lot of attention to me and helped me accelerate what would have usually taken me maybe 2 years to build, a fan base. It happened in 6 months because of all that. And that helped me to be able to take my case to an investor. This was somebody that I'd known, and I was like, hey, this is happening. Will you come in on the lowest level as a seed investor, not anything big or whatever the case may be? And he was able to come in, put in some money into the company. That also helped him now to start to fund certain productions, other productions, within the books. But I was also doing Kickstarter at that time. I've not up until I would say maybe the last couple of months, I'd never paid myself from the proceeds from YouNeek Studios. I kid you not. What I was doing, even in the times where I quit my jobs, because I was a web developer when I was working full time. I started doing websites for small businesses to sort of help me. That's how I was paying myself during that time. But Kickstarter was really what funded everything. And then the investor also that came in early on helped me to fund that aspect of it. Now your next question, about there was something you asked before that.
Asked if other companies are now trying to hire you to make comics or characters or stories for them.
Yes, and then also the advertising thing, I never really did it. I tried it once, it didn't work. So to me, it's just a non-starter, because it just doesn't, for me at least. So that's not something I can talk about. But in terms of helping people, I did open up the doors to that kind of service last year. But it came very overwhelming very quickly, because there's a lot of books that I'm working on personally. And I never wanted a situation where somebody paid me to do something and I wasn't giving it the same attention I was giving my books.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, so I did that for a couple of people, but it very quickly became too hard to balance both, as well. So I had to stop. Doing
for your integrity's sake too, right?
Yeah, exactly. For my integrity's sake, so I had to stop it. But there was not a shortage of people saying, help me, I want to get into it. And that's, one of the reasons why I do podcasts like this, because I want to be able to help people by telling them this is what works for me. And doing that was also a chance for me to help mentor people about how to do this the right way. So I missed that part of it. But to answer the last question from Malali, the whole, talking to producers, unfortunately, I can't say anything. I can't say what I would say. What I would say is that we're in a position where people are at least listening to us.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you ever got back to JB Fox. I remember there was a time he expressed interest in playing.
Oh yeah, I sent Jamie, and Jamie, if you're listening to this, man, very cool. I sent him like a box of books and merchandise and T-shirts. I never heard anything back, so I don't know, man. Jamie, I'm still here.
Yeah, I think he wants to do Tyson first, and then he wants to come
I know, right? Yeah. So that's that. Yeah.
I love something you said, which is, let's be very real. It shows up in all you do. It's important to you to give back, to teach, to pass along the knowledge and experiences you've had. Yeah. And as somebody who's subscribed to your app, by the way, if you're listening to this, YouNeek Studios has a really good app with a very shockingly low subscription point, $2.99 a month.
Yeah,
gets you access to the entire back catalog of Malika, of YouNeek Studio, of EXO, of
Yanis, the Windmaker,
Windmaker, and all these other books and the videos. But also, I was stunned to find a complete entrepreneur's course. In there. Which I've started following. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, this guy is offering a course for $2.99.
Yeah, a lot of people sleep on that. So I did a course called Creative Biz Launch, and it basically just talks about, in the last 5 years, this is what I've done to be successful. And for me, like that's the way I feel like I can give back. Like the course is way more, it's worth me more than $2.99 a month. Trust me. But I wanted to make it accessible to people that needed help. And when people come, I was like, "Oh, can you help me do this? Can you?" I'm like, "It's already there." Like, I advertise this in all the time. Like, it's already there. Like, you already even, like, you have it in video format where you can listen to it over and over and over again. So I want people to know that if you have any question for me, I've probably answered it in the app.
I have to say, no, I don't think I've said this enough. It's cheaper than Udemy, cheaper than the stuff out there. And it's there, and it's rather than looking for somebody's work on business in general, this is tailored to the creative arts. This is tailored to people who want to come into this. I'm not lying. I'm listening. I'm like, okay, take notes, and I'm listening for this. I want to say, great job, great work.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I don't know. I think Dako may have a few questions, but before he throws one in, I'm going to just say this. After this, we're going to quietly talk between us about exactly what's happening with Netflix. And
I didn't say that. I didn't say Netflix. I didn't say
that. Out there.
I didn't say that.
Okay. All right, fine. He didn't say that. But we're going to assume he said that.
Don't get him in trouble now. Come on.
We'll talk offline. But we have, so that's all.
I'm sorry. I had one question before, but now you said something earlier about how when you were writing your comics, you always had a long-term vision that you're gonna hit the animation route.
Yes.
And it's funny for me because I'm literally the resident comic head here, so comic is
awesome.
my go-to thing. But I feel even the big companies, the Marvel and DC, that's the approach they have.
Yeah, exactly.
Making peanuts on it, but it's all about the so one thing you're going to promise me, though, you will still be doing comics even when you make it. Yes or no?
Oh, no. Of course. Even if I love comics and I love the flexibility. And this is one thing you find out, right? Like the bigger you go, like for instance, if I get an animation show, like somebody wants to adapt Malika for live action, you are naive if you think you're not going to lose elements of control. Nobody's going to give you, nobody's going to say, come in, because you created comics and do whatever you want. You're going to have executives, you're going to have producers, writers, and all that kind of stuff. The beauty about comics is that I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want in it. I can make the characters do whatever I want. So for me, like it's even therapeutic to do that, because it's like, that's one creative lane where I just get to do whatever I want to do. So if not for anything, it's just the ability to continue to just be expressive in my own way is something that I will always continue to do. And I love the industry, and it's growing in Lagos, in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. And part of my mission is to continue to support that industry. 95% of people that I've worked on all my books are, from Nigeria. That's not something I've made up, like literally 95%. And it's for a very good reason. It's to support those artists, to give them a platform where they can actually do this for a living, as opposed to juggling stuff and get paid well. So that's, to me, something that I definitely will continue to do.
Excellent. Just one last question. In your Malika book, one thing I noticed, and I've always wondered about this, and I know you spoke about you work with a lot of people, so maybe that's where the input came in. The military strategy. I always wonder how people, formulate military strategies in battles, and it's quite prevalent in Malika, especially. And I just wondered, have you got a military bent to your mind, or is this somewhere where you research or got other help from outside?
Yeah. So I mean, I've never been in the army or anything, so I'm not going to claim any kind of military experience. But those people protecting us, like, again, hats off to them. It's to me, it's one of the most honorable things you can ever do in your life is join the military and protect people that you don't even know. So I'm always in awe about the soldiers that continue to defend us. But one thing I'll say is, like, I've always been fascinated about military strategy, though. I play a lot of, like, not like the Call of Duty stuff, all that stupid things that where online people are just trolling and all that. I'm sorry, I don't like Call of Duty. I think it's because I never win. I'm always getting killed, like, the first, like, I just can't seem to be good at it. Like, I go online and there's all these people just cheat so much, and then I get cursed out for no reason. I'm like, I can't even do this. So the reason I brought that up is because I play, like, real-time strategy games, like, what's this thing called? Like things like Civilization, like those games.
Yes.
Or what's the name? Company of Heroes. Or Total War, like all the series. Like, so I played, like, these strategy games, not just these action shooters.
Oh, okay, you made the point.
But and I'm very fascinated about all the stuff that you can learn from playing that, and obviously I take a lot from that, but also even research, like, and I've never actually even said that. There's a lot of things that in Malika that I actually borrowed from historical battles, and one of them is so there was this battle that Alexander had. I can't remember with who, but his army was overwhelmed. But in order for him to be able to sort of even the odds, like, he met this larger army at a river, right? So when the larger army was crossing the river, they sort of, like, ambushed them. And in the chaos of all that, because obviously, like, there's water and things like that, he was able to win the war. And I'm paraphrasing now, it was more whatever than that. But you see that in Malika, there's actually a scene where there's a battle that takes place in the river, and Malika is outnumbered 4-1.
I know that scene.
Yeah, but I won't spoil it for you too much. But, these are things that, I take, from, again, from history, to be able to incorporate. So this isn't just, let's just put two armies together and then just fight with superpowers. Like, there's actually thought that goes into every battle. Even the one-on-one battles as well. Like, I always try to have story elements to the fight. Even the fight at the end of Malika, again, I won't spoil it too much for you. Like, the fight there were a lot of story elements. It wasn't just a brawl. You understand what I'm saying? Like, every slice, every punch, every kick was based on, okay, how is this driving the story? And that's what I try to do with all my books.
All right. So we'll take another quick break and we'll be back after this. I have some questions about this particular Nerds cut that we're going to talk about, where there's some creative license going from one form of the Malika story in print to the
that's a very
screen
interesting one.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that after this.
It is clear your quarrel is with me. I will no longer tolerate Azazian bloodshed in your petty rebellion.
Petty? You do not deserve the throne! After your father's death, it was supposed to go to your uncle, our true leader.
You truly expected my mother to turn over my father's kingdom to a man they called Bakwa the Butcher? The same man that murdered my father for the throne?
There was no proof? And besides, he deserved it. He was weak, just like you.
You lay siege to a province full of farmers, good people, my people, and yet you speak of weakness?
If it takes another civil war to replace you, so be it!
Let me make this easy for the both of us. I challenge you to single combat. You win, you are king. I win, and this rebellion is over.
You just made the biggest mistake of your miserable life. Select your champion, my queen.
I am my champion.
Die! Die, wretch! My head! My shoulder! My knees! My toes! My head!
Oversized camel face.
My